Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Learning CAD Sketcher for Beginners. We're using the CAD Sketcher add-on in Blender to learn how to create models in CAD form. In today's lesson, we're going to be learning how to create this model from a reference image. So we take an image that we've imported, this one here, and what we do is take the image and we're going to scale it. So we're going to scale it to a size. So you can see in here, if I show the sketch, that the sketch is being sketched around this image using tracing techniques. If we look at the sketch itself, just hide the image and show all the constraints. I've scaled the sketch to be 100 millimeters in diameter of this circle. When the image very first come in, it was much smaller than this. So we've used scaling techniques in there. So I'm going to show you how to scale. I'm going to show you how to use tracing techniques to trace the image into Blender so we can use our reference image to create our model. If you're enjoying these videos and you would like to support the channel, then you can do so via my Ko-Fi page. That's at ko-fi.com/MJ3D Studio. Any donations will be used to help expand the channel. So we're in Blender and we're going to import a reference image. So first of all, I'm going to get rid of this cube, hit delete, and I'm going to place Blender in the viewpoint of the Z axis. So I've clicked on the Z axis. This means when I import the image, it will be placed upon this axis. Now there's two ways of importing a reference image. We can drag it in, or we can use the add and come down to image and click reference. First of all, we need an image reference. And we're going to use this one. So this is available from my patrons. So this is a free post for anybody that wants to use that reference image. You don't have to sign up to Patreon for it. To download it, well, we go to this address and I'll put that in the actual description of this video. And we'll click on the image, right click and save image as. From there, you select the directory where you want to place it and you're good to go. As I said before, we can actually import it from the folder itself. But if we use add, come down to image and click reference, then we can select the image from here and load reference image. The advantage of doing it that way is that this is centered between our axes. If I took the image from our folder system by opening up a folder, finding the image in there and dragging it in, then wherever I dragged it to, it will be placed and we would have to move it. That's not a problem because we can actually move this image. But what we need to be careful of is this point here. As you can see, as I drag it, that point doesn't move. If I used anything like S on the keyboard to scale that image, you can see it scaling towards that point, which is not what we want. I'm going to Control Z that. So we would have to move this image into place. We can use the move tool and try to get hold of the arrows here to move it. You can see that point is moving with it. But sometimes it's quite hard to get hold of that arrow. And at the moment, well, you can see I'm able to do it. And let's Control Z that. I'm actually able to get hold of that arrow. But if we have problems, let's cancel the tool, select. I can actually select and click G for grab on the keyboard. And that moves it. So I can move that. The minute I click, it drops the object down. That's how to import the image. So if we're going to trace this image, we need to scale it down to the correct size. This circle, I want 100 millimeters. Now I can see if this is in scale by adding some kind of scale object in here. So something that I know the scale of. I'm going to use the flyout bar and start by adding a sketch. Now I need to add this along the right plane. So let's have a look which plane this is sitting on. I want to add it to this plane. And well, we've got a circle in there. We could use a line. So we can create a line across here that's 100 millimeters long. And we can see what size this is. Or we could add a circle. I'm going to go for the circle. So click on the circle. Come in and hover over that center point. So you can see the center point there is highlighting. If we come and hover over that center point there, then the center point of the actual image is being shown. We create a new sketch to get this in here. Let's come over to the image itself and hide it. So that's hover over that center point, click and create the circle. And what we'll do is right click to get our main points back and click on the circle and add a diameter constraint. And we're going to set this to a size of 100 millimeters and hit enter. And we may need to zoom out to see that there. So there it is there. Let's click on Z and leave the sketch. So we got this circle here of 100 millimeters. So we know if we bring back the image by clicking on the little eye there, we can see it within there. That's scale the image. So let's make sure we zoomed right out. Hover over the image and can hit S for scale. Click it so it's selected. You can see it's selected on the right hand side there. And hit S for scale. So I've clicked on S on the keyboard and we can scale this up. And we're going to scale this out. And we'll click to get it in the right place. And also we need to move it. So we'll click on the image again. And now we need to move it. It's already selected, so we can use the move tool. And we can move it with that. And move it into the right place. Or you can use the G on the keyboard. So once it's in roughly the right place, we'll zoom in. Just make some minor modifications so we can move it in there. And just get it in the right place. If you're having troubles, let's click on this properties here, the object data properties. The opacity, we'll click on that, make sure that's selected, and bring this down. And we can see through that and get a better idea of where the circle sits and see if we've got the scaling right. So that will do me. I'm quite happy with that. And now this is the scale. This center part here is in the scale, if I click on this sketch, of 100 millimeters. And we can start our sketching in here. We can start our tracing. So we're going to take it stage by stage, making it simple. This sketch is symmetrical. So I can do one of two things. I can basically sketch the whole of this, or I can sketch one side and mirror it. I'm going to go for the whole of it. So what that allows us is to practice our tracing skills, because we're going to be repeating circles, we're going to be repeating arcs, and we're going to be repeating lines that connects up those arcs, and the tangency constraint, etc. So first of all, let's get some circles in here. So let's click on Add Circle, and we'll create a circle that's in here like so. So one circle. Now we need to place some distance away from this point and this point in here. If I come in here, you see I've selected all sorts of things in here, so I can't shift select them. That's highlight. If I roll over this 100 millimeters and it highlights, click it and pull it out and right out the way. So we've got nothing in here. We can also hide these constraints. So the constraints will be visible under constraints here. Let's open this up. And you can see the diameter constraint is in dimensional constraint. You can see it there. And we can show or hide all if we want. So let's hover over that center point, click, and shift click this point and put a vertical constraint in there. So this won't move left and right, but it will move up and down. Stop it from moving up and down. Click this point, shift click the center point. Distance 77, let's round this down to, at the moment it's got a 0.06 or 0.05 or whatever it was after it. So that's in there. Let's zoom up to the top. We can see we've got degrees of freedom 1. That means there's something that can still move in here, and that's this diameter. So let's click on that and set a diameter. 15.6, I think we can get away, if I click on it, with 15 millimeters. And again, we can pull this out of the way. So we've got the fully defined sketch. We've added one circle. Let's take that circle, hit Control C on the keyboard and Control V. We've pasted that circle now with the constraint. So I can come in and drop it in here. Best of all, it would actually be worth just clicking on that constraint and delete the constraint and click on this circle, shift click this circle, make them equal. So we can copy geometry across. Let's just add a circle in here. It's just as easy to create a circle. Right click to get the mouse pointer back and click one, shift click the other and make those equal. Got the circles in? Well, we need to keep this point and this point in line. Shift click those 2 points. Got a horizontal constraint in. Now they're horizontal, well, they can move left and right and they keep in line with each other. So one moves and the other moves. Well, we've got to keep them in line with this point. So we need to keep these centered. There are a number of ways of doing that, but we're going to need to use construction geometry. I'm going to take a line like that, hover over the center point and come down and drop the line in here. This is going to be construction geometry in a moment. We've got the vertical constraint that's kicked in. That's right click to cancel the tool, right click to get the mouse pointer back. Take this point and shift click this point, use a horizontal constraint. Those are in line now and we can move those. We've still got the horizontal constraint between these two, which is good. And we can set some length in here. So I'm going to take this and set some distance. And click on that and set the distance to 38 millimeters. So now we've got this. It can't move up and down. We can move left and right. And we can set a distance between this one and shift click this one. Place a distance in there. 131.59. Let's go for 130. Let's see what we get there. Well, let's go a bit more. So click on that. 132. And we've got that in there. Got 1 degree of freedom. So we've got a degree of freedom somewhere. So we need to stop it from moving left and right. So although we've put that constraint in there, this still can move this way. So let's place a line. This is going to be a construction line. So click on the line, click on this point, come over to this point. So that's added in there. Right click to cancel the tool. Take this line and this point. So shift click both of those and use a midpoint constraint. So click midpoint. So now we've got a redundant constraint. You can see that there. So saying some constraints can be redundant. It's probably these horizontal constraints. Delete that constraint in there and delete these, delete constraints. Then we've got fully defined. That's because we added the midpoint. So you can see we worked through those constraints there and we showed the problems that could occur. And we have to think about, well, if we've added a midpoint and it's created that midpoint constraint, do we need those horizontal constraints because it's kept it centered? So, well, we didn't. So we've added that one in there. We've got to make sure that these two lines, because they're just for centering, well, they've got to be construction. We can't shift click them and right click because it's only the right click over the ones that are highlighted when we hover over them. So that's construction now. Right click on this one and set that one to construction. The next thing we need to do is look at creating this outside. So we're going to use the arc. So the arc works by clicking a center point, clicking the start point and creating the arc around like so. And right click, cancel the tool. Let's highlight that and hit delete. So let's do the same. Let's use the arc. Hover over the center point of this point, this circle, and set the start point to here. Come round and set the end point to here. So we've got that in. Click on that and set the diameter straight away. So 34.43. That's fine. Let's bring this right the way out the way. And what I'm going to do is come down under the constraints and hide all. Makes it easier to work with. So we've got that there. We need some lines to follow these this way. So I'm going to click on that point, add the line in. Right click to cancel because we've got the multi-line on. So if I click on the tools, you can see that continuous draw is on for that add 2D line. Add another line the other side. Right click to cancel the tool. Right click to get the mouse pointer back. You see the solver space select tool. as shown up on the right hand side. Let's make some tangent constraints between this line and this arc to keep them nicely connected together and flowing. So shift click those, add the tangent. It's not going to look much different because we've got a nice flow between those already. Well, this one is, so click one, shift click the other, and it can be used on 2 at a time, tangent. So we've got that transition there. And we can bring this around, we can see how the tangency is working there. It's working for us really well. So the next thing we need is this arc here. I'm going to make it easier on myself and add the same arc here first, and then we'll connect up in the middle. So let's add the line first. Let's work backwards. So we need a line from about here to here, and right click to cancel, here to here, right click to cancel again, add the arc. Remember, it's a center point first, beginning point, and you can see what happens if we try to do that. That goes right away out here. So let's connect up to this point, and it's gone this way. Control Z that, because I don't want it that way. So we have to be wary when we bring these lines in of where they're going to sit. So center point first, I'm going to click on this point and just make an arc to about here, and we'll sort this out in a minute. Right click to get the mouse pointer back, cancelling the tools. Take the arc, click once, and we're going to make it equal to this arc here. Shift click that one. Remember, this one has already got the diameter constraint on there, and we use equality across those. We need tangency against this arc and this line. Shift click those, add the tangency, and we'll position this line into place. You can see how this is locked down now, much easier to control. At this point, shift click this point and make coincident constraint. So we're building this up nicely. Now for the arc between these two here. Now, this is where we've got to add the arc and have a bit of guesswork of where the arc center is going to sit. So if we draw a circle around here, rough circle, it's probably going to be sitting about, more around about here. Probably a bit further, about here. This point, and bringing this around, we've missed the size of the circle. It doesn't matter. It's in that vicinity. Hover over that point and click. So we've got that arc here. We'll show you what happens if we put it a bit too close. It's easy to solve, but it just makes our life easier if we can visualize the circle and the center point. Again, take this line, shift click this arc, use the tangency, and do the same from this line, this arc, shift click those and use the tangency. And we're going to pull this in. Try not to get hold of the image like I've done underneath. Let's click on that arc, pull this in and bring these points out. Now, I'm struggling with this. You can see this center point's moving all over the place. So what we'll do, this center point's really got to be centered in the middle of this arc. So this point, the center of this arc, so this is the center of this arc, shift click this center point, vertical constraint, these are centered now. So when I move this out, you can see that we get this nice transition. Bring this in and we can control where this is going to sit. Manipulate it into position. Once we get it into position, we click the arc and lock down its diameter straight away. So we've got that diameter in there. Let's take that and bring this out. So you can see if I bring this around, that arrow is pointing to there, so we can know where it is. That's hide all constraints, and we can see how we're doing in here. So we've got that. I've accidentally moved this, so you can see, well, we can move this. We've got issues when we move this because, well, it starts moving. We click off, Control Z, then we undo our last action. So edit, redo. And well, this isn't the right size now, so we may need to rescale this, but we're going to carry on as is. So how much degrees of movement we got? We got quite a few degrees of movement because this can move and these can move. Let's place this point and this one, shift click those, place them horizontally. Watch the degrees of freedom. Horizontal, it's gone down 5. That's good, so we've got that there. And we can bring these up into position. So we're starting to get an idea of how this is going to look. These 2 points, this point and this point, shift click those and keep those horizontally in line as well. And we'll go back to the arc and place the arc in center point, create the arc, click, and right click. We know this arc and this arc, shift click those, are going to be equal. So we've got this arc in, we've made those equal. Let's add some lines. So again, line tool, click on that point, bring the line out. Right click to cancel the line, click on this point, bring this out, click once, right click, and right click again to get the mouse pointer back. Taking the lines and repeating, so line in the arc to make them tangent, and the same on this side. And we'll bring these out, and we need some arcs in here as well. So again, click about here, this point to this point, and the same on this side, click about here, this point to this point. Right click to get the pointer back, and we need the arc from here. Shift click this arc, make those equal, bring this back in, and what we'll see that this point and this point need to be in line. So we bring this in, you can see how that's converging on that axis there. Let's do the same for this one. This one, shift click this one, use the equality, bring this in and take this point, vertical, this point, and this point, shift click those, vertical. And let's have a look. What do we not have on this side? We don't have the tangency, do we? So let's take this arc, shift click this line, tangent, bring the arc into place, do the same on the other side. Let's bring this out a bit more. So this line, this arc, tangent. Do the same on the other side. This line, this arc, tangent, this arc, this line, tangent. So we started to get these into position, and we can manipulate these into position and decide where they're going to go. It's up to you how much you want to manipulate these and get them as close as possible. I may take away this tangency going across here because I can see I'm having problems at this point. So we come down, show all, and we can see that there. And actually it's diameter. So we've got a diameter constraint here. Let's bring this up and click on it. So click once, let's delete that and bring this down to about here. So that was causing us a bit of an issue when we was getting that into position. Cancel that. So this here, if I click on that, I keep on getting the horizontal constraint here, which is pain. That's idle. This here, this arc, set the diameter. So that's got that diameter set there. You can see it there. Scroll up, degrees of freedom 2. So we've got 2 degrees of freedom in there. And that's because we can move that up and down. So to stop that, take this point and get in there. We've got the constraint kicking in. So let's come down and hide all again. On this point, shift click this point, set distance. So you get 1 degree of freedom there. Click it and delete the constraint, we get 2. We can see that's moving up and down. Now, as I move it up, I can see something. This point is moving away from that center. So if I take those two, shift click those two, make them coincident, we've got a redundant constraint, but it's all constrained. We could go back and try to figure out what constraint that was that's causing the issue, because we have all our constraints in here, and we see this one here, got an exclamation mark. Let's show that. So we've got the horizontal constraint in there that's got an exclamation mark on. So if we come in, click that, and delete the constraint, let's see what happens. We've got a degree of freedom of 1. So we've got 1 degree of freedom. So something's moving in here. And the thing is that we've got to this point, and I could go through and try to figure out what it is, which is that one. Control Z that. Does it matter if we got a degree of freedom in there? So we can take that point and hover over that center point, shift click those if we wanted to, and add the constraint of a coincident. So you see we come into another redundant constraint then. So we can go down and go through and try to get rid of all these constraints. Let's delete it from here this time. And we're fully defined now, but at the end of the day, if we leave the sketch when we got those constraints in there, it's not going to affect us really unless we go in and accidentally move something. So it's totally up to you if you want to go fully constrained or partially constrained in there. Remember, I accidentally moved this. So I accidentally scaled this a bit more, and we've got this overscaling here, but this is enough for me to work with. I'm going to take that image and hide it. So you can see in there that we've got our sketch ready to go. What do I do now? I need to solidify it. I need to extrude it. Now let's say this is around about 2 millimeters high. So to extrude it, it's the same as what we did last time in the last videos. We take the sketch and we need to edit it, come down to this conversion type and set it to mesh and leave the sketch. So now it's a mesh. You can see the sketch is on the right hand side here. So that is selected. We need to add a modifier. Use the spanner or the wrench icon, add modifier and solidify. Thickness of 2 mil. And you can see we've added that 2 millimeter thickness here. Offset -1, we can send it the other way. 1, hit enter. And we now got our model that we sketched from an image that we've imported. If you're enjoying these videos and you would like to support the channel, then you can do so via my Ko-Fi page. That's at ko-fi.com/MJ3D Any donations will be used to help expand the channel. I'd like to thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.